Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Village of Gurnee Planning and Zoning Board for this Wednesday, March 20, 2019. Could we have roll call, please?
Bow. Here. Garrity.
Here.
Norntoff.
Here.
Path.
Here.
Pasak.
Here.
Riley. And Tula.
Present. We do have a quorum. If everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the meeting that was held on February 6th. Does anybody have any comments, questions? If not, a motion to approve would be in order.
Motion to approve as written.
Second by Mr. Pasak. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the minutes from the meeting that was held on February 20. Any questions or comments? A motion would be appropriate.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Paff. Second by Mr. Bow. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a parking modification for a proposed medical office building / Holiday Inn, 6161 and 6155 Grand Avenue. Clara, staff report?
Yep. CRD Acquisitions LLC, representing a client that operates medical office buildings, is seeking approval of a parking modification to allow the construction of a 25,245 square foot medical office building on the former mobile service station property located at 6155 Grand Avenue. Staff has reviewed the proposed plans for the medical office building and Holiday Inn and found that they meet code with the exception of parking. The parking field to the west of the proposed medical office building is to split from the Holiday Inn property and be reconfigured slightly to provide a total of 110 parking spaces for the medical office building. Code requires a total of 101 spaces for the medical office building. The Holiday Inn will now have a total of 220 parking spaces. Code requires a total of 231 parking spaces, 11 parking spaces shy of meeting code. However, overall, the two sites combined will be only 2 spaces below code. Per code, the Planning and Zoning Board may authorize a reduction in the off-street parking requirements if it finds that, in the particular case, the peculiar nature of the use, the exceptional shape or size of the property, or other exceptional situation would justify such action. Code also provides for shared parking to allow off-street parking for separate uses to be provided collectively when demand for uses occurs at different peak times. A parking modification using a basis of differing peak parking demands is requested. The applicant is in attendance. Also in attendance is Dan Brinkman on behalf of the village's traffic consultant. The Planning and Zoning Board has the final decision-making authority in this matter.
Okay, thank you, Clara. It looks like there's a presentation queued up. Dave, I don't have the handheld microphone up here.
I think it's down there, actually.
So, good. All right, good. So at this point, I'll turn it over to the petitioner.
Hi, pleasure to be here. My name is Larry Powers. I'm with Centrum Realty and Development. We're the developer of the project. The CRD Acquisitions is a wholly owned entity of Centrum. Just a quick background on Centrum. We've been in business for over 30 years. I've been at Centrum for over 10 years. Generally, we develop multifamily and retail projects. I just highlighted a few here. The top right is a multifamily office building in River North on Hubbard that I understand Claire is familiar with. Bottom right is Wicker Park on Division Street, 200 units above retail. Top left is Vernon Hills Commons, which is what we refer to it. It's a Northwestern medicine facility in Vernon Hills at 60 and 21, right across from the new project there that Melody Farms that just opened. And then bottom left, maybe a little bit more recognizable, is a condo conversion, the old Montgomery Ward's office building that we converted to condos about 15 years ago. We're also, a very active Walgreens developer, so basically we do projects big and small, and hopefully you can see from the images that, we like to think we develop first-class assets. Again, Larry Powers. I'm joined by Lue Abuna with KLOA. He's our traffic and parking consultant. Howard Hirsch with Hirsch MPG. He's our project architect. And Dan, obviously, with the village parking consultant. The site, as mentioned, just immediately north of the existing Holiday Inn, generally consists of 2 parcels. Howard, can you highlight the gas station parcel 2 there? As mentioned, this is a former ExxonMobil. They closed in 2006. It's since been raised around that time, and it's been generally in that condition since about 2006. So it's today, if you drove past it, it's rough graded, kind of a blighted old gas station parcel. And then to the west of that is a surface parking lot that serves the existing Holiday Inn. Right, the Holiday Inn is just to the south. We rendered the proposed this is also a Northwestern Medicine building. We rendered it on the site so you can get a sense of how it fits on the site in the context of the Holiday Inn building. It's a 2-level, 25,000 square foot building. We'll get in a few minutes, we'll get to the architecture and the design of the building, but we're leaving one access, a right in, right out off Grand. Thanks, Howard. And then there's full access off Tri-State Parkway. Right. What you see here in the more darker colored asphalt is generally the medical office building parking as you read through the reciprocal easement agreement, which is the governing document that'll be recorded to the property that kind of dictates who owns which parcel, who maintains which parcel. Just getting to the design of the building, it's really a 4-sided building in the sense that there's no backside where we have split-face block or EFIS or DFIS or anything like that. It's masonry and stone and metal panel. This is the elevation facing west. This is facing Grand, or corner, if you will, facing north. This is facing this is the drop-off lane, so this would again be facing west. And you can see as it turns the corner there on the fire lane between the building and the hotel, the masonry, the brick and stone continue. This is the overall site plan. Upon completion, we'll have 2 parcels. We will have a medical office building parcel, which will include the parking field and the medical office building. That'll be owned by a Centrum-controlled entity, and then we will have the hotel parcel. So as mentioned, the hotel parcel has approximately 220 spaces in this configuration, and the medical office building has exactly 110 spaces. One thing I want to note is that the version of the REA that you received stated that the medical office building had 100 parking spaces. We since updated this plan. We were able to squeeze in a few more spots. 110 is the actual correct number for your notes.
That was in our materials.
Oh, was it? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
we were
All
able to
right.
get that updated one.
Good. So in terms of how this will function upon completion, we will maintain and manage the medical office building parcel. The Holiday Inn owner will manage and maintain his own parcel. Both parties will have self-help rights if one of us isn't performing. But generally, we have 2 distinct parcels that have separate maintenance obligations. Each owner takes care of their own parcel. During the hours when the medical office building is open and operating, they will have use of the 110 spaces in front of their parking field, in front of their building rather, and they'll get to use those spaces once the medical office building closes and the Holiday Inn guest traffic picks up in the evenings and the weekends. Just to kind of a zoom in of the floor plan for the medical office building, showing the drop-off lane in front of the building. Landscape plan, we can kind of skip over this, I think, and we have photometrics as well. So this is just everything that's in your package. I'm going to back up to the overall site bird's eye, because I think this is kind of the best view to look at as we talk through the project. Howard is happy to elaborate on the architecture, and Louis is here to answer any questions you have regarding parking.
Okay. Questions from members of the board? Okay.
I know it was.
Edwin raised his hand first. Okay.
I know it was in here somewhere, but what are the hours of operation for this facility?
So the hours in operation, I think, go till 8 p.m. It's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., I believe, is what's in the REA. And that extends a little bit longer than a traditional medical office because it will have an urgent care, more than likely. So
Okay.
that small component stays open a little bit later. It's primary care, so it'll be dermatology, MRI, your primary care physician, and there'll be a small urgent care component.
Okay.
Will you be, is that the parking lot going to be repaved or what?
It is. So it's not exactly in that configuration today. There's a new landscape buffer, in the middle of that buffer, but yeah, that element's new. That will be milled and repaved to look like it will be a new parking lot.
And then one other question, I mean, you do have I can envision some, issues with the hotel. I mean, you have a hotel where people are staying overnight.
Right.
I mean, what's to say that it's not going to interfere with your parking for folks that are visiting the medical office building if Holiday Inn guests come in at night, and then you won't have enough parking spaces Monday through Friday?
Yeah, fair question. So we've studied this hotel. We've come to know this hotel very well in terms of its occupancy today. And the average occupancy for this hotel right now is below 60%. In fact, last year they were at 100% only one day. And there's a 210-room hotel. Even that day that they were at 100% occupancy, there were 30 rooms that they rent out to Air India. Those are people that are shuttled, believe it or not, from O'Hare. And so they have 30 rooms that take up no parking. And that's an agreement that's been in place for a long time. Without that, they would not have been at 100% occupancy. Generally, if you're operating a hotel and you have an agreement like that with the airline, you're offering an extremely low rate. And so it's an indication that the user's really doing what they can to drive occupancy.
Is there
Yes.
anything to mark the parking?
Yes, glad, I forgot to mention that, but the parking spaces in front of the medical office building will be signed to indicate the hours of operation for Northwestern.
Okay. And that they're reserved for that building?
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Yes.
Is the medical building going to be open 7 days a week, or?
I think it's provided that it could be open 7 days a week. I can tell you that Vernon Hills is not open on Sundays, and this will be very similar to Vernon Hills.
Okay.
We've given them the flexibility, though.
Okay. Do you envision the individual practices, aside from urgent care, being open past 5 o'clock?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would be unusual. There may be some days they stay open later, but I mean, just in terms of what we've looked at for their other facilities, it's very unusual.
Mr. Nordentoff?
Are you envisioning a scenario where urgent care would evolve to a point where it would be like 24-hour or something like that? Or are you going to really hold to the 8 o'clock?
Well, if it did, they would not have the 110 reserved spaces after 8 o'clock at night. So they will just have non-exclusive use of the parking field. I don't see that. I mean, that's really their business, is to project where that'll go. But that's not their intention. And if it did, it wouldn't be a tremendous traffic generator at 2 in the morning.
Anyway, right?
Right.
Mr. Pasak?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think through how this land is used today, because I drive by there all the time, and I see it full of buses, trailers for the hotel, and I'm just wondering, is that going to cause some sort of dispute, or, because this is like a loading zone for the hotel today. And I mean, have we thought through how it's going to be used?
Yeah, I
or
think, to be
resolved?
honest, I mean, they're really not managing it very carefully because they have just an abundance of parking.
Right.
And so it's not, and frankly, today, you should see that this parking field is, the entire property parking field is largely vacant almost every time you go by. But they will park, big truck or bus out. I've seen a Greyhound out there recently because they can, because there's no other cars around, and they could just park right through, an aisle, and it doesn't really disrupt anything because there's really no other parking.
Okay. But I mean, that's the intention, is that the front piece parcel is for this medical facility, right in the front doors of a hotel,
Right.
and they're going to ask, is that the intention that the hotel?
There will be
Sorry.
signage that kind of directs you.
Well, there's a negotiated legal agreement that makes it happen, and it's going to be a recordable, there's going to be a recordable deed, if you will.
Right.
That makes it a binding,
Yeah, this
Just thinking
agreement,
of human nature and how the land is going to be used, right? That's what we're trying to think through.
right.
And if I'm a hotel guest, I'm just going to park closest spot to the front door. And I don't know if that's going to create an issue.
Yeah, I think there's probably going to be a learning curve. There's going to be some co-managing of this while we kind of change traffic patterns. I mean, like, I think there's going to be a little bit of that up front, but there will be directional signage, there'll be signage on the spaces.
These spots here are still part of the hotel spots for short term.
Yeah, there's some convenience parking there.
And then there's entrances to the hotels along the parking, so most people staying in the hotel will park and go to one of the side entrances.
very normal behavior pattern is you go to the front desk, check in, find out where your room is, and then park at the closest door to your room.
Right.
So,
Yes.
The only thing I see about the parking, though, is that just behind your building is their conference center. So usually, and I have been in that conference center to some meetings, we park right in front of the hotel. Now you're going to have to park off to the side of the hotel and walk around, I suppose?
So that conference center, it's interesting. So we've looked into this, and it generally, the larger events that they have, not generally, like almost absolutely, they're social events, which means they're in the evening,
Right.
which means that parking field would be available.
Okay, they can use the parking field?
Yeah, like a Saturday night wedding, you can use the parking field when the medical office is closed.
Huh.
So
Okay.
I want to say the hours stop at 5 o'clock on Saturdays, just off the top of my head, but that's the intent here, is that when that social event occurs, this parking would be available for the hotel.
So the parking's going to be marked for certain hours?
Yeah, every space will have a placard on it that says, you know, this parking is reserved for Northwestern Medicine between the hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on a Saturday, or 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on a Monday through Friday. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
thanks. From my perspective, I mean, in total, the site is literally 2 spots short, and there is a commitment to employ a valet system if necessary, if something super peak happened. There'll be a legal agreement in place that is recordable on the deeds that makes this enforceable. And it's negotiated by 2 independent parties, so, I mean, I personally don't have an issue with it.
I would just add, I agree with you. I was just looking at it, it's a huge improvement over what's existing right now. I would much rather have this parking lot and that medical facility than trucks and Greyhound buses and what have you that we've seen over the years. So I have absolutely no issue with this project.
Okay, is anybody willing to advance a motion?
I'm ready to.
Okay,
I move that we approve the parking modification for the medical office building at the Holiday Inn at 6161 and 6155 Grand Avenue, as it's written.
do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have one thing I think we need to incorporate as part of the motion. It's contingent, contingent upon that contract being in place, because that's key to making it happen.
Correct, yeah.
So to modify this motion,
To include-
contingent on the agreement between the two parties as discussed at the 2 locations at 6161 and 6155 Grand Avenue,
Right.
medical office building and Holiday Inn.
Right.
That agreement's written in.
Okay, I lost track.
Second?
Second, you okay with the amendment? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Bow. Garrity.
Aye.
Nordentoff.
Aye.
Path.
Aye.
Paysack.
Aye.
Sula.
Aye, motion carries. So good luck with the project.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, we're excited.
All right. Okay, next meeting on the calendar is April 30. We're probably 50/50.
April 3rd.
Oh, April 3rd, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
We're probably
it's a
50.
possibility, but we don't have a
We
public
we
hearing.
don't have anything public. There's nobody here from the public, so I'll close the floor to the public. Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Moved by Mr. Nordentoff,
Second.
second by Mr. Garrity. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.